you beautiful listeners out there. This is Marilena Lee and the beautiful and talented.
Shannon Morrison.
And this is the Divine Play Podcast, a practical guide to living your life with joy. And we are coming at you with episode 1 of season 2. So we are so excited to be here with you today. Of course, as always, because we're always excited. We're like golden retrievers. Facts.
We are kind of back.
Yes. And so we are starting with our new format today, and we got an incredible question from the beautiful Sarah. She is a trainer in my realm, in my region of this world down here in Tennessee. And she's a Pilates instructor and she's a yoga teacher, and she's just an all around incredibly beautiful human being. And I asked her this morning, hey, if you could get together with 2 transformational educators, coaches, whatever you want to call us, and you could ask us anything, what would be the question that you would ask? And she thought about it for a second, and then she looked at me and she was like, what does it take to transform? And I literally was just like, damn, that's a
It's like a whole year. It's like a whole year podcast right there.
It's like a whole year of podcasts. And I felt like this was the most amazing question to start season 2 out with. So
I agree.
Yeah, we're going to dive right in. So Shannon, I am curious for you because we talked a little bit like off camera about like what my ideas around this were. And I want to know for you, when you're working with your clients in your containers and one-on-one, what is the number one most important ingredient you've seen for people to transform? Like, how do they start the journey?
First of all, there gets to be an openness. You get to be looking for some way to shift into a different way of being or showing up for yourself or your family or your world. Like and what comes to me right away is that where you are, there has to be a line in the sand, first of all. And then there has to be an openness to dig out of the hole that you're in.
So what I'm hearing from you is that there has to be a desire.
A massive desire.
Yeah, that you don't want to keep living the way you're living. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a key ingredient to being able to transform, because if a caterpillar wasn't willing to build the cocoon, right, the caterpillar wouldn't dissolve into a huge pile of goo to become a butterfly.
That visual was not as beautiful as the butterfly.
But I think it's important here because when we go to transform, we know that that means that there is probably a period of change, which most often might not be the easiest thing to do. And so I think you're right. I think that really strong desire to change is like, that is that's like a prerequisite, I think.
It is a prerequisite. And I think that the line in the sand there gets to be a reason that you want to move forward so incredibly. There has to be like the pain of where you are is so great that going through the pain of more pain or more discomfort or more rocky mountain storms ahead is worth it in your mind. Does that make sense? So it's not going to be easier. Basically what I'm thinking of is I just remember myself and like making that huge decision to like change the way of being that I was being. Not that I don't ever, we discussed that a lot. But when you want to shift the way you're living, you know that it's not going to be this. I mean, I knew it was going to be an up. Yeah, there is no one's going to be sending me crumbs along the way for the right path either. It's going to be like a forest of lanes, and I get to choose which one is the one I'm going to take today, because I'll probably take a different one tomorrow, kind of thing. But it's just not a cakewalk. And I know that, but I think that where you are is hard. But the question that everybody has in their mind that comes to me is like, you get to choose your hard, right?
I was just going to say that thing we see on Facebook and social media all the time. Like, hey, marriage is hard. Divorce is hard. Choose your hard.
Choose your hard. So it's just like growing a business. It is like a marriage. It is like building a relationship with your teenage kid, or, I mean, you choose your hard. You're either in or you're not in. And I feel like, and I don't mean that in disrespectfulness, if you're going to change the way you're being and showing up, it's all learning. You get to be open to what's coming for you. right? The bigger picture gets to be you get to find your why.
Yeah, so, like, Simon Sinek,
Hmm.
is it Find Your Why? Is that the name of the book?
Yeah,
Or I
yeah,
think so.
I think so.
And, but he talks so much about, like, your why is what will keep you going when it gets hard. So it's
Hmm.
that internal motivation. And in recovery, in the recovery space, we talk about this as like you come to a jumping off point because
Hmm.
you can't keep living the way you're living and you don't know how to live any other way. And
Hmm.
so it's like I remember there was a point in my own recovery process where it was when I really realized that I had a problem, and I think this was probably one of the truest moments where I made a dedication to my sobriety and my recovery. Is I got into a fight with my very difficult ex, and I was weeping and sobbing and driving to an AA meeting at 10 p.m. It was the last AA meeting of the day in the city of Denver. And I was driving there desperately to go get support. And I'm on the phone with this woman I call my hot springs sponsor because she wasn't officially my sponsor, but like we would go to the hot springs and just like talk it out. And
Hmm.
she has about 5 more years of sobriety than me. And she basically kept me alive until I got into recovery. And she would she was on the phone with me and she was like just kind of helping me get to this meeting. She was like, are you on your way to a meeting? And I was like, yes. And I'm talking to her and I literally screamed into the phone. I was like, I want to drink or I want to die. And like that was my jumping off point. I think that was the moment where I really realized, like, hey, like I gotta be willing to do something different here because I cannot keep living like this. And I wanted to learn how to live another way. And so, like, that's my key ingredient. Like, how do you transform? Obviously, you can't do it overnight. You can't, just look at it and go, okay, I'm gonna be different now.
Hmm.
For me, the key ingredient for transformation is willingness. A
Hmm.
willingness to do something different, a willingness to ask yourself the hard questions, a willingness to do the work, a willingness to take suggestions, a willingness
Hmm.
to model people that have been where you are and have gotten to where you want to go. And maybe they have a roadmap and like maybe they can give you some advice. And maybe
Hmm.
even if you don't think it will work for you, or you don't think that it will help you, or that you're a hopeless effing case, like just the willingness to fucking do it anyway, you
And I
know?
feel like it's feedback. I feel like it in my experience, friends, if you're a lone wolfer in the world, am a recovering people pleaser. I'm a lone wolfer. I was like, no one needs to know my shit. I'm gonna take care of my own damn self. I'm a big girl, whatever. At the end of the day, in the beginning of every single day, things get done and healing happens when you ask for freaking help. Like I just did not realize what you didn't realize that other people could do to support you. Growing up, I was the person that, and I still am, and I love my humans. I love being in the group of Shannon will have advice for me. Shannon has some sort of a conversation or a pep talk or a how do I switch this to be positive kind of moment because that is my jam. Like I will switch everything. I'm like, but you're alive. Like even if that's not you are breathing air, right? But I was going it alone for so long and there was so much time there of just sitting in the muck, I think, and not understanding the next step because I was literally viewing my life like 10 years ahead and the whole encompassing of the storm instead of the next step through that storm. Does that make sense? Like I was like trying to have my binoculars out to see through the rainforest when I just needed to take one freaking step inside that forest to get
Mm.
to the next step. And so asking for help was the second, being open. I feel like the willingness to be open. Feedback is amazing and it does suck sometimes, but it's also
Yeah.
learning. But I have learned in the last 2 years to ask for feedback because it is absolutely all learning. It's not criticizing. It's just it gets to be neutral. It gets to feel like I love you and I'm curious if this would be helpful, or I'm curious if this thought. And you've taught me that question a lot in the last year is like to get curious about it. Like literally
Mhm.
question, get curious, they be open. Neutrality is amazing. But 2 years ago, I took this amazing leadership program, and that's what we got feedback every single moment of almost every single breakthrough we had. Are you open to feedback? Well, you could say no. I mean, there was choices, right? We all have choices, but feedback was then viewed completely different. And so I tend to always ask, are you open to feedback? Because I hear you, I feel you, and what if gets to be a question sometimes.
Yeah,
Um,
well, you know, and I just like for me, just for me, like I hear
oh yeah.
willingness like in every single one of these things. Like you have to be willing to get it wrong. You
Hmm.
have to, right? You have to be willing to get it wrong. You have to be willing to listen to other people. You have to be willing to fuck it up.
Oh shit, yeah.
You
Mhm,
know, like you have to be willing to not be perfect. And I think like a big part of that is like, questioning your story. That's another tool
mhm,
I have that's really big for transformation. I own that.com. I should probably do
mhm,
something with that website, question your story, because it's such a big freaking part of my own journey. But it's also one of the biggest tools that I bring to people, right? Is like question your story. And this
mhm,
is rooted in the work. Literally, it's called The Work of Byron Katie. And
mhm,
Byron Katie had like a spiritual awakening in 1986 and like came back and was like just this completely and totally different person. And it's literally questioning your story, a willingness to ask yourself, is that true? Can I know for absolutely positive that it's true? And like, who do I become when it's true? It's like this, it's just these set of 4 questions, which I think was like the giveaway that
mhm,
I did when I did your summit. I had made like an
mhm.
infographic of it because it
Yes,
was
I remember
such,
that, yes.
yeah, and if anybody wants it, feel free to email us at the divine play
Yeah,
podcast at gmail.com. We'll send it to you.
it was an
Free.
amazing
Yeah.
CTA. No, I love it.
Yeah.
That is
But
amazing,
it's not
yes,
my
and I'm listening
magic.
to the book again. Yes, I'm listening to that book again because it's amazing, and you reframed it to for me the other day. Yeah.
Right. But so like, and also I think like that openness and willingness, like they go hand in hand. It's like
Mhm,
they are like two little lobsters holding each other's claws, just floating along on the ocean floor, right? Like they're paired
mhm,
for life. Like if you have willingness and openness, then that opens the door for you to see something different. Just are you willing to see it another way? And are you
mhm.
open-minded enough to think that maybe you don't know it all?
Oh my gosh, yes, and which comes to the next thing. I think the last thing, the very beginning stages of absolutely any transformation is your filter. And I feel like we have talked about dumpster fire a lot, and I feel like if you somebody taught me this, actually it came through in one of my summits. An amazing therapist, and she said if you change your filter, and I've always talked about living life filtered, like not being seen all the way. There's always like a little bit of transparency. Like I got to being like a yellow filtering life. And that's what I said at the very end of this leadership program. It was so interesting. Um, and talking about colors of chakras, all the things, it just came full circle for me one day. It slapped me in the face. And I was like, that's funny. Anyway, but she's like, what if you zoom out? Because we're in the grit, we're in the fire, we're like burning, it's like chaos and we don't have the fire extinguisher, blah, 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 the story, right? But what if we zoomed out and we looked in? Then we can see the surrounding, we can see the way out, we can see the fire extinguisher. Like all this perspective shifts when we're not in the fire. And I was like, this is brilliant. So I was like, so just like change your filter because it will
Mm,
absolutely change your perspective. I just love that zooming out because like it is like we zoom in our phones all the time, right? We're like looking something very, very far away and we're zooming in our phone from way over there. But if you zoom out, you can see everything else in the backdrop.
yeah.
So what if there was a different door, or what if there was a different step or a different path, or what if there was somebody there to help you, or
Yeah.
what if there was a fire extinguisher?
Well, and so what's really interesting is like, neurolinguistic programming is a huge part of how I work with my clients. And one of the things we talk about is our filters. We talk about this so much, and it's huge because you've got two people and they're they grew up in the same town. one got lucky and got all these opportunities and took them, and then the other one just had horrible luck and like nothing went right for them ever. And so, they grew up in the same town, they came from similar families, they grew up maybe even on the same street. Why did one person see nothing but opportunities and the other person saw nothing but roadblocks? And the answer to that question from the NLP standpoint is it's your filters, right?
Mhm.
Like, so the numbers aren't exact, but like, the ratios are right. So I'm going to go with how it was explained to me. But at any given moment, there's about 3 million bits of information that are passing you by at any given time, right? And that's everything from visual, auditory, what you're feeling in your body, temperature, sound, sight, color. And our brains are like pathetic at taking in all this information. So they filter, they generalize, it distorts our mind, does all of these things to kind of organize information. And it's really good at pattern recognition. And so it will create these like patterns that we see. And it's all through our filters. And there are all these additional filters like our trauma, our culture, our family dynamics, the things we were told as a child. And so, like the person who sees nothing but opportunities, that's because their filter, their lens is just more clear, right? Or they're geared to recognize patterns of opportunity and abundance or whatever. And then the person who is seeing nothing but roadblocks and nothing goes my way, it's because their filters are programmed to see nothing but difficulty, nothing
Mhm.
but roadblocks. Oh my God, nothing goes right for me. And so it's not so much about never having filters because we're going to have filters, but it's a
Absolutely.
willingness to clean your lens by being open minded and questioning your damn story and asking
Absolutely.
yourself, is this thing actually true? Or am I maybe not seeing the whole picture here? I love how all of these tools are just like weaving together into this beautiful little blanket that we get to wrap ourselves in. I love
Absolutely, I
that.
love it. No, I
Yeah.
this is we could talk about this for so long, but I really feel like this is the answer. Like, what does it take to start? This is not what the whole transformation, because that will be here like a whole year
Oh,
in
but it
one.
kind of is though. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing. If you do this every minute of every day with every little difficult, painful story and
Mhm.
like limiting belief and, horrible thing you're telling yourself about yourself, if you do these basic things,
Mhm.
like one
That's
day
true.
you wake up and you're no longer sitting in a raging dumpster fire, like there's like that white foam from the fire extinguisher is all over the place, and you're holding the fire extinguisher in your hand and you're like, when did I get the fire extinguisher? I
I
guess
love
this is
that.
a good thing, right? You're just like, how did I
Yeah.
get this fire extinguisher? And like, whoa, the fire is out,
Yeah. That's
And
true.
like, and oh, my dumpster turned into a really cute little baby hippo trash can from IKEA. How did I get this thing?
Guys, I
Did
want
I
a
order
hippo
this?
trash can. I'm totally gonna find one.
Huh,
Love this. I
awesome.
love that we're talking about animals. I love the visualization. I love that it's literally 3 tools.
Yes, it's three. It's
3
so
tools.
simple. It's
It
not
is
easy.
dynamic. It's not easy.
It's
It
not
gets to
easy.
be no.
But that's because we believe it's not easy, right? So like once
Mhm.
again, question that story. What if it was easy? What
What if
if
it
it was
was?
simple? What if you didn't have to do it all at once? And what
Yeah,
if you got to do it one difficult thought and belief at a time?
absolutely. One step. One step in
I
the
know we got
rainforest.
I know we got to wrap it up. We got to wrap it up. We
I
made this
know.
promise to keep these under 20
I
minutes, so we got to
know.
keep our
I
promise.
know. We're doing good. I love this. Practical tools. Living life with joy.
Yeah. So for those of you out there who have a question about something in your life, very specifically, maybe you have a very specific thing, or maybe you have a general question like the one we had today of, well, how do you transform? What burning question do you have, or what thing in the healing space is pissing you off that you would like us to explain, right? That you'd like us to maybe put in terms that make a little more sense. What is that thing that's like baffling you? And if you guys have a question, you can email those to the divine play podcast at gmail.com, and we will answer your questions because that's how the divine play podcast do.
Yes, and anybody has a link to a hippo trash can, a very small baby hippo trash can, I'll take the links to
Please
that
send
as
that as
well.
well. And I would like a honey badger trash can, so I would appreciate that. So And
We're
if
all
you
in
have a
trash
3D
cans today.
if you have a 3D printer and you want to make us one, even better.
Even better. It's all good. We'll take all the things.
Okay.
Okay, this has been amazing. I love this question. And episode 1, season 2.
We did it.
We did it.